Black Phone 2, the franchise sequel that erased the word "the" from the title for whatever reason. It also didn't need to exist, but what are you gonna do? People loved the grabber, and Hollywood drunkenly said more, so we got more. And also a Fortnite skin. Even though I don't think anyone asked for a sequel, much less a Fortnite skin of a child abductor / murderer, but whatever, it's Halloween, why not? And the first film ended pretty definitively, so we didn't really need it, but whatever. Speaking of, not too many people actually watched my review for the Black Phone, so be sure to check that out up here in the corner to see my thoughts about the first one, and then come back and watch this one, or watch both of them at the same time. I don't know, I don't care. Just watch it. Helps me grow, and after that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey. And anyway, that brings us to today. 3 years later with a new sequel, with the same cast returning, and the same director, Scott Derrickson, and the same writers also coming back as well, which also includes Scott Derrickson. So, did magic happen twice? Get it? Because he's a magician? Well, kind of. Yeah, actually it did. Even though the movie does sort of rip off other successful ideas to get there, this still ultimately turns into a pretty fun, well-shot romp that features decent, tense fights and some great performances all around. It isn't without its missteps, but overall, this is an extremely solid follow-up that made so much money a third movie is almost guaranteed. Even though this film also ends pretty definitively and has no mid or post-credit scenes. If the series ends here, it's a solid run that very few movie franchises can say they had. Looking at you, Megan 2.0. Oh, they put all their eggs into one basket for you, didn't they? But as usual, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? So, what is this movie even about? Is it better than the first? Is the grabber just as menacing? Well, let's see. Before I mention the plot, I do want to say that this does involve heavy spoilers from the first film, given this is a direct follow-up. If for some reason you don't know what happens in that one, either watch it now and come back, or stick around and deal with it. There won't be any spoilers for Black Phone 2, just the first film, okay? Okay. Black Phone 2 takes place several years after the events of the first movie. Finney and his sister Gwen are now older and dealing with their respective problems and traumas. Finney is now a violent loner with no real friends and is seen as a bit of a pariah, being the kid who took down the grabber. People like him, but they don't want to get in his way. Gwen is dealing with her psychic dreams and trying to aid Finney where she can. When Gwen starts to sleepwalk and have dreams about their mother and a strange youth camp in the mountains, she, Finney, and their friend Ernesto decide to go to the camp and look for answers. Unfortunately, what they find is more mysteries, murdered children, and the spirit of the grabber himself, seemingly to be after Gwen as revenge for what Finney did to him. Right away, this is a great setup. But you can already kind of see where the movie is piggybacking off of other films, right? The whole dream thing just reeks of Nightmare on Elm Street, with Freddy Krueger swapped out for the grabber. There's even other moments that feel like homages to Jason. So, there's even other very uncomfortably similar bits, like both Freddy Krueger and the grabber being child abductors and killers, so that's something. It gets even more muddy when the ghost can hurt the dreamer physically. There are some weird rules in here, but I'm getting ahead of myself and I need to focus on the positives. So let's do that. This movie looks fantastic. It is very well shot, has some great moments where the camera zooms around as the characters turn, things like that. It's really cool. Whenever someone is in that phone booth as well, the camera is always doing something interesting. Sometimes it even goes through the glass somehow, and it's just great. I love it. The dream sequences as well are another highlight. Each time that Gwen starts to dream, the quality of the footage gets really grainy and snowy, as if you're watching a degraded VHS that only clears up when she wakes up. It's a really interesting way to define the difference between the sleep and the waking world visually, and it really helps to build the tension. It also helps that one particular sequence includes the film's only real use of effective gore, with some genuinely uncomfortable moments surrounding children getting tortured and killed in various ways, and there are these wonderfully uncomfortable yet gorgeous shots as well of the children floating under a sheet of ice and writing letters on it and then just staring up dead-eyed or fading into the darkness. I love everything about that design. It looks so good and gross and creepy. Another aspect I really like is how these characters have believably grown up. Finney isn't much more confident in himself or more outgoing than he was in the first movie. He's traumatized by what he went through and what he did. He's fiercely loyal to Gwen, and it's clear that these two kids have a very strong relationship that is probably held together through their shared trauma. We call that trauma bonding. It's toxic. Gwen is certainly coming to her own and controls her mouth a lot more. She's the more outspoken one, though, and is quick to make her own decisions, where she really wasn't in the first movie. She was a bit more reserved because she was getting abused. I think the character that highlights these grown-up differences best, though, outside of the children, is, ironically enough, their father, Terry. He didn't really have much of a character in the first film outside of being the usual Stephen King father trope character. He was an abusive, alcoholic man who substituted religion over meaningful guardianship. It looked like that was going to change at the end of the first movie, and it certainly did. Now in this film, he is a sober, submissive figure who seems to genuinely want to do good by his kids and is actually sticking by his word most of the time. It's really interesting. It's quite the turnaround from the drunk abuser he was before, and I really like that direction. It shows his own growth is fueled by recognition and observation of his trauma and his children's trauma. There's definitely a bit more of exploration into his past with his wife, the children's mother, and what happened there. He definitely should not be these kids' guardian, but hey, it's a step in the right direction and working towards genuine redemption for his character. I really like that attempt. It's really interesting to be able to explore that. And speaking of characters, there's only a few newcomers here. Honestly, only about 4 or 5 if you count Ernesto, being the people that work on the ranch, and Finney and Gwen's friend Ernesto, who just so happens to be the little brother to one of the children who died in the first movie that was friends with Finney. Honestly, great detail there. I really like it. And most of the new characters are quite enjoyable, although I don't think they get nearly enough time to come into their own, and 2 of them are very obvious throwaway characters meant to pad out the roster, but still, I appreciate them all well enough. They each have their position. And of course, none of these characters, returning or otherwise, would be any good without strong performances behind them. So, what do we have? Both Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw reprised their roles as Finney and Gwen, and I'm sorry, they are the linchpin to this movie's success. Sorry to everyone else, but these 2 are the stars. They both just have such strong careers ahead of them, and I'm so excited to see where they go. Such a great job of not only stepping back into these 2 characters, but evolving them over time. It feels effortless for these 2. Thames captures Finney's anger and trauma perfectly. There's this one moment near the climax where everything kind of breaks down with him, and it is flawless. Absolutely love it. McGraw too carries a lot of this film around her actions and scream queen potential. It is very smart to mostly follow her as the focus, since the first film followed Finney, so this will follow her. That works. Wonderful casting. I love these 2 actors. I cannot wait to see their future. Also returning is Ethan Hawke as the icon, the grabber himself. And again, he is just immediately a ton of fun to watch. He's intimidating, scary, and carries this insane presence every time he arrives on screen that just really works for some reason. I don't know if it's because of how Hawke carries himself as this character or just the image of him with his changing masks. still love that detail. He's not scary because he's a ghost now. He's scary because he's determined and feels so at home with what he's doing, which was the big kicker in the first film. There's this wonderful moment as well with him and Gwen that feels genuinely unnerving and uncomfortable, even though it's just these two characters talking to each other. Truly, the Grabber really is an icon, even with only 2 movies to his name. We're definitely going to be seeing more of him probably. I also want to bring up Jeremy Davies as Finney and Gwen's father, Terry. Like I said before, I really didn't think he would have much to do in this movie, but he surprisingly is given quite a bit plot-wise later on. And again, it's really great to see Davies just evolve this character from a truly reprehensible being to a person actively trying to better himself for his kids. Who would have seen that in a kind of a King movie? I know the original was written by Stephen King's son, but still. I wouldn't say Terry is an amazing character or anything, but it's great that these writers are clearly trying their best to bring him into the fold and help redeem his character to the audience. Plus, I really like his awkward but friendly conversations with Finney. It feels so much more dad-like and just really cements this family. Now, there are plenty of other characters as well to talk about, but they just don't really get to do much. So I really won't talk about him outside of Miguel Mora as the friend Ernesto, who is the same actor who played Ernesto's brother Robin in the first film, so really cool detail that he was able to somewhat reprise a role. But all of these other characters just don't do much. Only one gets a lot of lines, but other than that, he's just kind of there, and the other ones just kind of back him up. They don't really do much, which brings me into the negatives. The film, for all of its positives, really has plenty of frustrating flaws and nitpicks that will actively drag the score down, at least for me. One that really bothered me was the film setting up a very, very interesting mystery, with Gwen dreaming about these kids drawing letters in the ice and trying to find a connection to her mother at the camp and everything. I really like it. It's such a really cool, engaging mystery that had me guessing at potential outcomes in the story, when suddenly the film pauses and proceeds to spell out the mystery all at once to all of its characters with some of the oddest exposition I've seen in quite some time. It is very clunky. Everything from, oh hey, look at this picture that just so happens to have everyone we're talking about, to immediately knowing what these letters stand for, to knowing exactly what to do next. It's way too clean. I can see maybe that being used for the third movie, like maybe everyone's guesses were actually wrong and the big revelations aren't the correct thing, but who knows? As it was playing out in the movie, I was getting actively disappointed and a little annoyed by just that scene in particular. Thankfully, the film drew me back in with some great visuals and a tense atmosphere and some truly wonderful emotional moments, but still, that was something. Another issue is that the climax rushes by a bit too fast and seems to break all of its own rules. Without going into spoilers, the rules here are generally close to Nightmare on Elm Street rules. The Grabber is trying to kill Gwen in her dreams, where he can actually harm her physically and also affect the environment around her dreaming body, I assume. But then later he seems to be able to just do whatever he wants and switches more from a ghost to an invisible force, kind of. It's more than a little confusing, and it shows up out of nowhere, so I am not sure what the writers were thinking at all. After doing my research and thinking more about other bits of the story that felt dropped, like, for example, one early Chekhov's gun scenario around tarot cards that never came back up, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of this movie that was either cut for time or to flow better. Certain rules and events just aren't explained properly or seem contradicted later on, and some characters that feel like they should have had bigger roles have next to none at all in the final product. It's incredibly odd. It definitely feels like there's a lot of holes around here. Overall though, I feel like most of these issues are nitpicks, and the general focus of the film is in its tense atmosphere and extremely compelling characters. This honestly was a worthy sequel that, while I don't think it should or needs to exist, I am glad that it does. I wouldn't say it's better than the first movie, but it's definitely a solid film and a great time overall. If I were to make it better, I think it really just needs some general cleanup and some better rule following or explanation. Nightmare on Elm Street is still effective, I guess, but you can do a bit more. So by all means, I say give this one a watch. This is a good recommendation. So ultimately, Black Phone 2 gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. And thank you for watching this review on Nightmare at Camp Crystal Lake. I don't know what else to say. I kind of feel like the Grabber could have been a slasher villain, sort of, but everything from his look is just really, really good. I still love how the mask is split so he can have his eyes showing. He could change the face from the smile to the frown to just no mouth whatsoever, and everything just kind of fits. And how he acts when you take the mask off in general, and how he's constantly like hiding his face for some reason. I like all of that. And there's definitely a little bit of an exploration into who the Grabber was. A little bit. It's very bare bones here. I feel like the movie could have explored that a little bit more. I feel like if we do get a third, we'll definitely have to explore his formative years, maybe. We're definitely getting a third one. It made so much money. And yeah, he's kind of an icon now. Again, he's in Fortnite for some reason with Art the Clown. It's a weird time we're living in. I don't know. Anyway, what did you guys think? Did you like this movie? Did you think it was better than the first, or is the first still better? What did you think of the first movie? Let me know in the comments below. After that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video. And yeah, that's it. Have a great day, and if you're not, have a better one. See ya. I'm just a ghost in your stereo. The fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost summer. You know, just a ghost in your stereo.